Okay, here is the new SIG Sauer P320 X5 Legion. It is still dirty and fresh from last range work, and it is wearing a loopholed Delta Point Pro because that was the only optic I was able to get a hold of that it was compatible with at the time. But I now have the Romeo 1T, which is supposed to be compatible with this pistol. So I'm going to swap it out and use the P320 X5 Legion to do the initial testing of the Romeo 1T. If it'll go on. Alright, so there's all my paraphernalia. We got 2 screws. We also have 2 additional screws here, so I'm not sure. We will assess that situation. See which screws I need. Also has a nice rubber cover, similar to the loopholed Delta Point Pro. Alright, so take the Delta Point Pro off and put on Romeo 1T. Let's get started. Okay, the easiest way to do this, of course, is to work with just the empty slide. There's no need to have any of the rest of the handgun, and it makes it a little easier. And first thing I want to point out is I pulled the battery out of this box, which was not easy. I had to get tweezers to get it out of there, but it is not a CR2032 like everything else takes. Nope, this is a CR1832 or 1632. One of those numbers, I'm not sure. Instead of being about the size of a nickel, it's about the size of a dime. So it is an atypical battery, unfortunately. It means you're going to have to carry more than one kind. Alright, so let's start by breaking this Delta Point Pro loose and getting it off. Okay, so first thing is we've got this steel housing that is a protective cover that comes with the 1T, which is nice. We're going to mount that. And really, we should be able to just use the same screws. So one goes over the other. You can see that those mounting screw holes line up, those two right there. So the short screws that come in this little pouch, this little Ziploc bag, are not the ones I need. So I'm guessing the ones I need are the 2 that are here in the box. How the hell are you supposed to get these out? This packaging is great until you try and actually take anything out. That's a royal pain in the butt. It was hard to get the battery out, and now it's hard to get these screws out. Okay. Alright, so it's not the length, it's the diameter that counts. And SIG has already applied some Loctite. Okay, I'm just going to snug it up a little bit. I'm not going to torque it down yet. I'll get the torque driver out in a little while and do that after I look up what it's supposed to be torqued at. But alright, so that went on pretty easy. Now I want to put the battery in. Let's see if we can use the battery to open the battery door. Nope, no such luck. I bet you we can use this. It comes with this little tool, and hopefully that fits right in there, which it does. The cap for the battery compartment is also magnetic, so you can just take the positive side or the flat side of your battery and stick it on there, and then get the whole thing in position. Get a turn or two on it. Make sure that the threads are lined up right and it's not cross-threaded, because those are pretty delicate threads. They would be easy to strip. So this little tool would probably be hard to keep track of unless you clip it to something. It does have a hole there, so if you wanted to put it on a key ring type of situation in your range bag or something with other similar tools, it might be easier to keep track of. But otherwise, you could just use any properly sized screwdriver. And we have a nice bright reticle that you probably can't see. There you go. You can see it. That should be full power, more than likely. It's mounted. It's not properly torqued yet. I will see to doing that in a moment, but it didn't take long to install it. Of course, I already had the optic cover plate with the rear sight off because I had the Delta Point Pro on there, so that saved me that step. I did use the mounting screws that came with it. It comes with 2 sets, and according to the SIG manual, you need to check and see which set you need for your SIG pistol. So for the P365 X5 Legion, it took the larger diameter thread screws for your reference. And they did have the Torx head, so I used the little Torx. Both the Allen key and the Torx key come with, as well as the additional screws. So there we go. So the other thing we have is this cover. Doesn't have any no logo on it. I'm kind of surprised. They passed up a marketing opportunity there. Got SIG plastered all over the sight and the sight protector, but nothing on the cover. So there you go. So when not in use, slip that on. It's going to keep your optic not only protected against bumps and scratches, but it's also going to protect it against dust and dirt, grease and grime, things like that. Rain, potentially, if it starts to get wet, although I wouldn't think a little bit of weather would hurt it. Alright, so there is the Romeo 1T mounted and glowing brightly. Okay, specifications indicate 30 inch-pounds, so I am going to torque it to 30 inch-pounds. Okay, so you can see that although I was snug, I was still a little bit shy of the 30 inch-pounds that it requires. So now we have it torqued to specifications, and it should do us just fine. Okay, there we go. There it is, mounted and looking like a pistol. With the SIG Romeo 1T, you can see that there's just a little bit of a notch right there. Just a little notch for our front sight. Okay, so good job. Good job, SIG, giving us a rear notch, albeit a small one, but still, it is a good reference point. So if we have to go without our optic, we can do that, and it's also going to give me a good place to start with to zero in that red dot. Alright, so you've got the brand new P320 X5 Legion from SIG Sauer, and you've got the Romeo 1T mounted on it. Got a good rough zero. Now, what can you possibly do to continue to improve on this gun? Well, I think you know my answer to that. Talon grip, rubberized, my favorite. Let's get to it. Okay, there we go. Now we have a brand new Talon rubberized grip, freshly installed. I'll tell you what, with all that tungsten infused in this polymer, not only is it heavy, but it holds heat better too. When I heated this thing up to do my smushing, it really got a lot warmer than polymer usually does. Alright, so let's get that out to the range and shoot it. Okay, so I am going to start out by sighting in at a short distance, like 10 yards, just to make sure I'm on paper and make any adjustments and then move back from there. So I'm going to take the Romeo 1T and the P320 X5 Legion and some SIG Sauer Elite Performance 124 grain ball to start out with. So now you know all the particulars of what I'm doing. Just can put 5 rounds. That ought to be plenty to make sure I've got a group. It's a nice reticle, and I really do like the notch, and the 2 aiming dots in the back are awesome. Alright, it doesn't look like I'm exactly on, so probably going to be off a little bit. I'm guessing I'm going to be low left. Let's see if I'm right. Nope. A little high. Okay. Interesting. Let's go ahead and shoot all 5. Okay. Well, that group may not be where I want it, but I'll tell you what, it's a nice group. So let me see if I can tweak the sight a little bit, get that down where I would prefer to have it. I'm also using my favorite rest. I have this is the CTK Precision. This is the compact, and I also have a full size that's good for full rifles and stuff, and I absolutely love these rests. They are about as good a precision rest that you can get and still be very lightweight and portable and extremely adjustable. Okay, I made some tweaks. Let's try 5 more. I'm going to stick with 5, even though 3 would probably be plenty, just to make sure. Take any of my shooter error out of the equation and see if we got a little closer to center here. Yeah, I would say so. All right, ladies and gentlemen, good night. All right. I would say we've got ourselves a good 0 at this distance. Now it may need some further adjusting when I get out a little further. So let me try that next. Okay, I am now 30 yards back. And I'm going to try to make that dot as small as I can and still see it good. Oh, I guess that was it. Okay. All right, so at this distance, this is about certainly as far as I would probably ever zero in a handgun of this type with this type of an optic, and further than I usually would go. Normally 20 yards is kind of my ideal spot. That way I know I'm good for a little further and I'm good for closer, but here we are, 30 yards. Let's stretch it out and go 5 shots. And keep in mind, guys, this is not a ransom rest or a vice. There's still a lot of shooter error going on here. And that reticle is a 6 MOA, by the way. So it's eating up a large chunk of the middle of that bullseye. Okay, well, let's see how those hit. I will say, while I'm thinking about it, this trigger, the trigger on this P320 X5 Legion is very, very nice. Okay, let's ring a little bit of steel just for fun. I think I've got a decent zero on this optic, one that at least I'm happy with, but you know, I have low expectations. Give you my thoughts of the gun and the optic as I shoot. I talked to you about this gun already once before on Guns America. If you didn't see that, you need to go find it. Amazing. Absolutely awesome. Just in case I get all wrapped up in the fun later and forget to tell you, the extended 21 round magazine that came with the original P320 X5 is certainly compatible with the Legion, although the Legion comes with only 3 17 rounders. Okay, I see a nice white flapper on that target. Hasn't been shot yet. Let's see if we can hit it. Uh-oh. So I always wonder, am I missing because I'm missing? Or am I missing because I'm losing my zero? So I was a bit disappointed when the Legion version of the X5 in P320 came out and was not compatible with the Romeo 1. Partially and mostly because I already have a Romeo 1, and it's nice to have something you've already got be compatible with something new. So I was a little disappointed. I did all my original review work with a Delta Point Pro mounted on it, which is compatible. The Romeo 1T, which is what you see here, is compatible, and SIG just recently had a sort of a almost flash sale kind of thing on some surplus at a great price. I think they were like $2.99. So I grabbed one, and it is compatible, and it also has some additional features that I really like. All right, so if you can see, there's a gap between the actual optic and this steel shroud that goes over it. So that shroud, that protective cover, is included with it. It's very nice. It doesn't take up much room in terms of footprint, which is great. That's going to protect your optic against being banged and beat up, and it also covers the controls on this side, which is nice. On the back, and you'll see this better in close-up photos, there are 2 dots that are basically your rear sight dots, and there's a notch. It's not an annoying notch that really grabs your eye. You've almost got to look for it a little bit, but there is a notch there that you can drop your front sight into, and guess what? You've got sights. You know, I was just thinking as I was loading up my magazines, I got to remember to thank this guy and this guy and this guy and this guy. It occurred to me, as it often does, just how great that is to have so many people to thank, because that means that there are so many awesome companies out there that are helping out the channel. And I really just have a hard time expressing how much I appreciate that, but I appreciate it immensely. So, starting with the target you're about to see downrange, that was provided by Tactical AR 500 Targets, as are all the steel targets you see on the channel. Those guys are awesome, and you can get a 10% discount if you look down below in the information for this video and find the discount code. Or maybe just look at the one I'm flashing on the screen. That might even be easier. I'm going to give a shout out to Optics Planet. You saw their logo on the targets that I was using for sighting in. From time to time they do send me stuff to evaluate and review so that you can be exposed to more products. And most of the time they'll throw in a bunch of those targets in the box. And I love them. I use them constantly. So a shout out and a thank you to Optics Planet. CTK Precision provided the handgun rest that you saw me using when I was doing my sight-in work. So a huge thank you and shout out to CTK Precision as well. I'm telling you, those things are great. I do not have the CTK Precision rest because they contacted me and said, hey, would you use our rest? I have it because I contacted them and begged them, please, please, please. I already bought the rifle one years ago and I'd like to have the handgun one. Can you help the channel out? And they did. So they are awesome. Support them with your dollars. And of course, no video would be complete without thanking my good friends at Talon Grips. I just put the rubberized grip on this Legion yesterday, and I'm looking forward to a full range day with it today. I love the feel of that rubberized grip on pretty much everything, and it definitely feels great on this Legion. Last, maybe last, unless I think of something else, but potentially last, but absolutely not least, 6 Hour Elite Performance ammunition. That's what I am shooting today. I'm going to shoot mostly 124 grain ball, but I will also mix in some V-Crown 124 grain jacketed hollow point. This is my preferred carry ammo. The gun, however, and the Romeo 1T that's sitting on top of it, I bought. So they are mine. And while I don't have to thank anybody, I still want to thank 6 Hour for making them because it's good stuff. All right, let's have a little bit more fun. Suddenly feel like I'm on Gilligan's Island. Feels like my Zero is drifting, but probably not. The other thing I like about having this steel shroud over the optic is I can just grab a hold of it to rack the slide. I never feel comfortable doing that on the actual sight. Number one, I think they just feel a little bit too fragile with that thin aluminum housing. The other part is I'm afraid to get my fingerprints all over the glass and then mess up my sight picture. But with that steel shroud, it gives me something to grab onto. You can definitely go through a lot of ammo pretty quick with this gun. Okay, from 12 yards, I'm gonna try and shoot slow and try and do good. The first 10 rounds are jacketed hollow point 6 Hour Elite Performance V-Crown 124 grain. The 5 behind that are 124 grain ball that I've been shooting. I normally don't mix those kinds of ammo. I normally don't mix ammo like that in a magazine when I'm trying to, do slow groups because they feel totally different. That whole train like you carry philosophy with the 6 Hour Elite Performance ammo makes the practice rounds, the ball rounds, feel exactly like the V-Crown, and that makes it really nice. Same velocity, same feel, and I really like that. Nice. This optic is very good, and obviously it's holding its zero very nicely. I don't know if you were able to see what I was talking about, but when I went from round number 10 to round number 11, I could not feel the difference. You probably couldn't see the difference. Okay, so after an initial range trip, getting the Romeo 1T sighted in and using it for a couple hundred rounds, and I figured using the P320 X5 Legion was as good a choice as any. Have to say, I'm very impressed. I've liked the Romeo 1 and had one for a very long time, and so it's great to have the Romeo 1T with expanded capability and expanded compatibility. So I have a list of pros and cons that I will share with you, but spoiler alert, the list of pros is much longer than the list of cons, although there are some elements that appear on both lists in different ways. I'll touch on that as I go. One of the things for starters that I liked about the Romeo 1, as soon as I got it, and the Romeo 1T shares that quality, and that is the very large wide glass lens. Great visibility, especially for quick acquisition combat type shooting where you draw the gun, you push it out, and you need to immediately have a sight picture. That wide glass is appreciated. I'm also a huge fan of the auto on, auto off feature, especially if I'm shooting a match and I might have the gun in my holster most of the day, but when I take it out at the buzzer, I don't want to go, oops, I forgot to turn on my optic. Windage and elevation adjustments are pretty easy, and there are nice graduated index or hash marks on the adjustments, and each one has a value of 1 MOA. The only downside, and I'll segue into my con on this same thing, is that it's not a real tactile setting, so you don't really get a click or you don't really feel much as you're turning that dial. So if you've calculated how many turns you need, you almost have to be looking at it to see how many notches have gone by, or you've got to be looking through it and watching the dot move. I like the top loading battery. That is definitely a plus, but this is another one where there's also an element of con, and that is it is not a 2032 battery, which means it's a different size than just about every other optic in the whole world, except for the Romeo 1. So now I've got to carry a different size battery in addition to my 2032s. So I appreciate that it's a smaller battery because maybe the housing doesn't have to be as big, but I do like the industry-wide compatibility of everybody using the same battery. The steel protector housing that comes with the 1T is much appreciated. I like it quite a bit. It's made out of steel, so it doesn't have to be very thick, so it's very thin and it doesn't add to the footprint. It does certainly offer nice protection for the optic, and I like the way they extended it out over the two control buttons to protect those buttons and still provide easy access to them. One of my favorite features of the Romeo 1, and of course on the Romeo 1T, is the rear notch that allows you to still get a sight picture with your front sight if you need to, because you've got enough glass there in the front, as I had mentioned already, that you can do that. You can look at a sight picture through the window. The two dots are good visual index points, however, they are not night sights by any means. They don't glow, and actually I think that probably would end up being more negative than positive if they did. It's available in a 6 MOA or a 3 MOA. I specifically got mine in the 6 MOA because that's what I wanted. For handgun use, I think the larger reticle being available is much more advantageous to me than pinpoint reticle for accuracy. If I ever did put this sight on a long gun, it's probably going to be a pistol caliber carbine, and I'm still going to be shooting at relatively short distances. Reliability and durability certainly seems to be there. My one range test is certainly not going to indicate reliability or durability by any means, but all early indicators are that it will have those qualities. I never had the reticle blink out even for a moment at any point during any recoil or anything. It stayed brightly lit and stayed on the whole time. It also held its zero very well. So first look at the Romeo 1T from Sig Sauer. Again, I picked it up on a kind of a nice flash sale opportunity direct from Sig Sauer. Don't know if they still have that going on, but if they do, go check it out. It's a great price. You can't beat it, and it is a really nice sight. I highly recommend it.